My dear brothers and sisters, today I would like to summarize to you the document, rather encyclical, written by Pope Francis, and it was released on the feast of Saint Francis of Assisi. The title of this document is called Fratelli Tutti. In English, it would mean brothers and sisters all. It's a letter on fraternity and social friendship, a call for all human person to recognize and live out our common fraternity. The title is an Italian quotation which means brothers and sisters all. This document has 287 paragraphs. It has 8 chapters and it is based on the social teaching of the church. The meaning of fraternity is care and respect for our brothers and sisters. It deals with social friendship. Fraternity includes solidarity and dialogue. Without fraternity, liberty and equality does not make sense. This book has got 8 chapters and I begin with the first chapter. The first chapter, and the name of the first chapter is Dark Cloud Covers the World. We can understand from the title itself, there is a dark cloud over the whole world. And what does it mean? It simply means that he talks about the negativity, he talks about the social problems that are existing in the society and in the whole world. And these are the social problems actually covering the whole world with a dark cloud. He also speaks about the distortions about the various concepts that we are supposed to be living. For example, he talks about democracy, and as we know, many countries, although they are democratic countries, but then yet the big question mark about democracy. We talk about freedom, which is the fundamental right of a person, and freedom itself, many people do not enjoy the freedom, and again, it's a big question. Justice, loss of meaning of social community. History is also being interpreted by different people on their own understanding. The selfishness is another issue that we see all around. The Pope talks about the indifference attitude towards the common good of the whole world, the human society. The more people are becoming indifferent, and that's where he says the indifference is the cause of many problems in this society. Pope also talks about in this chapter about the culture, a particular culture of profit and waste. What does it mean? The major people or the rich people in this world, their only concentration is profit, and also these people live a culture of waste of energy, waste of resources, waste of food, because it hurts Pope, because on one hand there is a lot of poverty, on the other hand a lot of waste of our resources and our food which cannot be comprehended, and so people are suffering out of hunger and poverty and malnutrition. So there is this culture among these youngsters today, and of course in the rich people. And so we are facing the problems like unemployment, racism, poverty, human trafficking. Basically, the first chapter deals completely with all the social problems that are existing in the society. That's why he titled this chapter as Dark Cloud Covers the World. The second chapter he talks about, or he titled it as Strangers on the Road. Now this chapter, how it flows from the first chapter. The first chapter it talks about the negativity, and yet he says in the second chapter there is hope. And where is this hope? The hope is in the Good Samaritan. The second chapter Paul discusses in the lengthy way about the characters of the Good Samaritan. The whole parable is being meditated in the lengthy form, and he expects people to place ourselves into these different characters that are available in the Good Samaritan. And he says there is hope in the Good Samaritan. He calls us to be that Good Samaritan because we need to reach out to the needy. He says that we do express our love in our own family. This love that we express in our family has to be extended to the needy on the road, wherever they are. So he says we cannot exclude people. Everyone has to be included in our love, and so reach out to them. Every opportunity that we have today in our life to help someone, to reach out someone, or to become that stranger on the road is an opportunity to integrate and to uplift the fallen one. And so in this chapter, Pope insists or calls Christians or urges Christians to be the Good Samaritan. He says, see the face of Christ in that, excluded person and reach out to him. So the second chapter talks about hope as long as we take up the role of the Good Samaritan. Third chapter, he talks about vision for an open world. A good vision for the open world. He said, true love impels us towards universal brotherhood, fraternity, which means social friendship. Our love should promote social friendship. Love calls for growth in openness and greater sense of belongingness. We need to have this attitude of belongingness. We belong to the other person. So it is an open vision towards the open world. Pope says that person's life is not measured by profits. Today we see your success, you see your profits. On that basis, our lives are judged. But Pope says, no, your life is judged with the measurement of love, how much love you have created. And the last point in this chapter, he discusses about the dignity of human person. That is the fundamental thing. If every person recognizes the dignity of the other, then the world will be much better place. So we should not deny anyone of his basic fundamental right of human dignity. So that's the third chapter. We go to the fourth chapter. He says, a heart open to the whole world. Well, we know Pope's favorite topic would be migrants. He had spoken about it, about migrants. And in the fourth chapter, he talks about, again, migrants. That's why a heart open to the whole world. He says, be open to the migrants. There are reasons, various reasons why there are migration taking place. People are leaving one country and going to the another country, or from the villages people come to the cities. So the reasons are basically due to the war, persecutions, natural catastrophes, human trafficking, and so on. So Pope says we need to welcome the migrants, we need to support the migrants, and we need to integrate them into our societies. Well, this could be a controversial statement, and yes, there had been huge discussions on the migrants issues, and yet Pope is insisting on welcoming them, supporting them, and integrating them in our societies. Well, we need to think more, reflect more, but this is the wish of the Pope. But at the same time, he also says that he insists that unnecessary migration has to be avoided. I think this is something nice of him, that he has people, for a silly reason also possibility of migration, and then the other states and the cities and or maybe other countries are burdened, and so he says that unnecessary migration has to be avoided by all means. All individuals, whatever their origin, know that they are part of the greater human family, without which they will not be able to understand themselves fully. And so, because of this huge issue of this migration taking place all over the world, Pope talks about a greater human family, the whole world as a greater human family, and so everyone needs to be given a place. So that's the fourth chapter. He deals more about migrations and migrants and how we could help them to reach out to them. The fifth chapter deals with politics. He has touched the politics as well. Pope says that the task of the politics is to find a solution to all that attacks fundamental human rights. A beautiful thing. Today we know the politics is more of profits. in the name of development. It's all about growing of economy, and in the bargain, yes, there is a huge indifference and selfishness. For example, the rich world, they are only growing, they do not care for the poorer world. Today, the whole world is calling to the nations to take care of the environment. The rich countries are not ready to reduce their carbon dioxide, whereas the poor countries also find difficult to reduce there because they need to grow more economically. So there is this clash. So Pope says, well, our fundamental duty is to find solutions to the problems that we are facing, and a huge challenge Pope is placing before the politics and the politicians and political leaders to find the solutions for our problems. Especially says, he emphasizes more on human trafficking and hunger. Find out the solutions to solve these problems. Politics has to concentrate around more human dignity and not on finances and results. So his very strong point again and again, in fact it runs through all the chapter, is basically the human dignity. Politics should focus on the long-term common good. Concretely, the Pope also calls for reform of the UN. So yes, he has also touched, or he also called on the UN. Now, I do not know reforms in UN is required, but yes, when he talks about politics, he has touched that part as well. We talk about the next chapter. It is titled Dialogue and Friendship. In this chapter, Pope Francis turns to dialogue, and it's an essential role in creating a new culture of fraternity. Dialogue is important. He talks about selfishness and indifference. On one side there is selfishness, there is one side where people are so indifferent to the society, to the crisis, to the environmental problems, and on the other side there is violence, there is protests. So we need to have a dialogue. There has to be dialogue. Without dialogue, nothing is going to happen. So society is built on an authentic dialogue, which involves respecting the other's viewpoint. So dialogue brings and respects the other's viewpoint. And so the whole world, if you see the crisis among the nations, the crisis at the level of economic, the dialogue does not take place. So the Pope is insisting we need friendship, we need dialogue, which will bring more of justice and peace. He says when we talk about dialogue, we need to think about everyone as having something with them. You cannot think about the other person as useless, and no one is, he says, and no one is expendable. So dialogue is very important today between religions, between the political states and countries to basically solve the problems, and Pope insists that there should be friendship and dialogue among all strata of life. Chapter 7 speaks about renewed encounter. Here, encounter with each other. It is a renewed, it's a spiritual encounter, it's a loving encounter. We need to experience the other person. And in this chapter, Pope promotes value of peace. He says peace is connected to justice and mercy. Yes, the more the justice is, the more there is peace. Merciful people allow, keeping aside all their persecutions and all their struggles, allow the mercy to flow, and so peace flows. He also speaks about unity is possible and best achieved when people work together to address the problem they share. So when he talks about friendship in society, so that unity comes when there is more dialogue and encounter. The process of peacemaking is ongoing and requires works, especially a care for the most vulnerable in society. So we have a lot of vulnerable groups in the society. We need to take care of them in order to experience peace there. Conflict will arise but can be resolved through dialogue and honest negotiations. So in that context, Pope also talks about forgiveness. He does speak about forgiveness does not mean simply forgetting everything. Like we have history in the World Wars history. We have history of a nuclear bomb being put in in Japan during the World War time, and that has caused a lot of pain in the whole world. So we cannot forget that part. History is required, so that we don't repeat those parts. At the same time, he says, when he talks about forgiveness, he talks about forgetting what is not required and renouncing the power of evil and the desire for revenge. So he becomes more and more spiritual at this time, where forgiveness plays a very important role to get rid of evil powers in us, to get rid of evil thoughts in us, to get rid of the desire for revenge. So a renewed encounter with full of forgiveness, where a person promotes peace, justice, mercy, forgiveness. This is how there will be more renewed encounter will take place with each other. In the chapter 8, we see Pope calls for religions at the service of fraternity in our world. All religions are at the service of brothers and sisters. It's very interesting to see. See, the Pope asserts that the essential role that the different religions of the world should play is fostering universal fraternity. So every religion has to play the role to foster the unity, the friendship, the care and concern for human beings. And that is the role of every religion, Pope says. He says that religions remind humanity of the existence of transcendent truth, that is God. So every religion basically teach about God, and if that is the thing, that God itself is the source of human dignity, and it is unless and until we as an individual person do not recognize the human dignity in the other, then we will not see better world around us. So what is important, the role of the religion is to teach about God, who is the source of human dignity, and so we respect all human. That is what Pope says. He does says that there is terrorism, but no religion promotes terrorism. He is very clear on that. People have erroneously interpreted the religious text, and probably there is this terrorism in the world in the name of religion because of the misinterpretation or erroneous interpretations of the religious texts. So once again, all religions have to work towards the service of humanity, to uplift and to bring to the knowledge of people that we are supposed to be respecting the human dignity which comes from God Himself. So these are 8 chapters that Pope spoke and given us a huge challenge today. I would like to summarize the whole thing in my few words. First thing, he presents to us the social problems: poverty, hunger, migration, human trafficking, etc. And what causes these problems is selfishness and indifference. We are all selfish. I, myself, my family, maximum. I do not care about the other. I'm not the keeper of my brother. That is the indifferent attitude. And so these could be the major causes of the social problems in the society. So what is the solution? The solution is upholding human dignity. Every person works towards upholding the dignity of the other. If I demand a dignified life, I need to respect the dignity of the other person. And so that's where he says the problems will solve. So all should work towards upholding the human dignity. So what are the approaches to this solution? The approach to this solution is build brotherhood, sisterhood. Have loving encounters, dialogue, and be a good Samaritan. Promote peace and justice. These are the attitudes, these are the approaches for the solutions to all these problems the Pope has highlighted before us. And who are these agents now? Yes, every individual is the agent, because I need to respect the human dignity. I should not be an indifferent person. I should not be selfish person. So every individual is the agent of the solution of these problems. Besides, he talks about UN, he talks about political leadership, and of course the religion will play a great role in bringing about this solution. When we teach people more and more to respect the other person, I believe there will be a better world outside. At the end, Pope says, we are in the pandemic, COVID-19. People's concentration is all on COVID-19. He says, there are bigger pandemic than COVID-19. And what are they? All the social issues that we have highlighted just now. All the social issues, the poverty, the hunger, the migration, the human trafficking, and other social problems that exist. They are bigger pandemic. And for them, the only vaccine is compassion, solidarity, and justice. Yes, beautiful, my dear brothers and sisters. We have forgotten malnutrition is in India. A huge poverty is in India and the Asian countries. But all are, worried about COVID-19. Yes, that is the pandemic we know, but let us not forget about other pandemic, the existing social problems of the world, what Pope says. And the only vaccine is compassion, solidarity, and justice. That's how I conclude, summarize the whole document before you. As I conclude, I wish to pray a prayer actually composed by Pope Francis, and that is at the end of this document. It's part of the document itself. So that prayer I would like to pray as Pope says that. Lord, Father of our human family, you created all human beings equally in dignity. Pour forth into our hearts a fraternal spirit and inspire in us a dream of renewed encounter, dialogue, justice, and peace. Move us to create healthier societies and a more dignified world, a world without hunger, poverty, violence, and war. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. Amen.